Well, welcome to the Dream Labs, the Dr. Contrast Live here. I just thought I'd take a quick minute and bring you up to speed on some things here. And if you were with us last Thursday, we had a really good time in terms of putting together a sketch on the C8 Corvette, which is a full illustration. And I do want to qualify this too. I noticed when it was loaded up into YouTube, it was mislabeled as entry-level sketches, even though I typed in Corvette C8 full illustration. So I'm very sorry for the misnomer there when YouTube loaded it up. It had the wrong identification on it. So if you look for it, it's called, it's really a very elaborate rendering situation from start to finish on doing a C8 Corvette in the front three-quarter. Anyway, all that to say, I have a little fun today with this whole process of going back in, as we talked about last Thursday, maybe doing some really good rapid little thumbnail sketches here on maybe some advanced C8 Corvette stuff, a couple of elevations, maybe a perspective here and there, just to put together some pieces here to kind of add to the story of this Corvette piece. So I'm going to be working on black Canson paper here today. Photo reversing it all with maybe a nice cloud blue pencil, and just going to do some really quick, rapid concept sketches here, and just get a character down for maybe what the next generation of maybe subtle changes or some dramatic changes to the C8 platform. So let's kind of go back in and get a ground line started here. We're just kind of real lightly here, just get a ground line down, work through that, get the wheels set, nice and easy. Count that back, 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Bring that into play. And just get a strike line started, just nice and easy. Over the top of the fender, drop it in, pick up the upper, drop that in, and kick up that really strong hip, and just take that back just a bit. Now notice, just really lightly getting a ghost image in of what the profile is going to look like. Very, very important to do. So start lightly and just slightly build it up as you go. Now let's kind of get this really interesting, this very quarter scoop system into place here. Let's go back and really get that thing to kind of crank at here. There we are. There it goes into that. It's just a touch more. Just very slowly build this thing. Now let's get the rear end in here. Put a little bit of a tub system back here. Gonna drop that out. Extend the ground line just a bit. Put that far side tire in place. Far side wheel in place. A little bit of relief in here. And just take our time. Now let's get a little bit of front end graphics in here. Let's kind of put this beak in place. Let's drop this in, drop that in. Get that little reverse. You get that little reverse. There it is. Take that right on through. So now let's get the lamping in place. There it is. Put a little bit of combination in there. Drop through that. Come into belt line. Take that back and pick up that same angle here that we've got on that intern piece. There it is. There's a nice, really quick little pencil sketch of an elevation study here and what we're going to look at here with the C8 series. So let's go back in and keep putting some line weight into this thing. Let's get this kind of run through. A little brake line through here. Let's put a weight in some of the sketches. Some of the line weights in here, kind of put a little more flavor to it. Some of the accent features of the machine itself. Roll that back. Take this into that whole curl, that whole ground piece, into that flare, into the wheel. Catch that upper quarter hip there. A bit of tone here to the downside of that surface as it breaks into the rocker panel area. Just kind of drop that in just a bit, kind of tone it back. Let me sharpen the stick a little bit here. And we'll just strengthen the sketch up just a bit more. Let's get that piece to work into here, into that. Get those rear sided wheels into place. A little more depth. It's real soft. A little bit of tone in this thing here, little marker lamp graphics. Gotta get a little bit of color to it. There we are. Just slice a little bit of that in place, and get some tail lamp graphics in here. Just a little bit of color to add in as we go here. There we are. That's a little bit of concept work here. Let's go back in and just keep working on some of the line weight studies here. A little more ground line in this guy. Strengthen that just a bit, ground it. Take it back, round it. Let's go back, find out where that center is. Same back here, let's find out where that center is. It's just going to move in here. A little bit more wheel definition. A little bit of highlight on top of the spoke itself, where it's going to hit most of the light source. And it comes through. Just going to get that in place a little bit. No, notice how it's just starting to come alive a little bit now. We're just very slowly but surely, just bringing it up out of the page. Very good, simple line weight work. And let's do the same thing in the rear area here. Get the spoke down. Start to the 5-spoker to read here. Take it off the page, a little bit more drama. Same thing here, take it off the page. A little bit of highlight where that's going to hit, etc. There we are there. Bring up the speed just a bit. Get the rest of the wheel, just real fast little touches here to get the theme or the spirit down of what the sketches really represent. I think that's the intent. I mean, to look at these sketches in terms of just not really kind of filling it all in, but just really getting a lot of a character about where the accents are, where the darks and lights are going to take place. Come back in some more side of pencil here, a little more tone through here. Now just take this underneath, a little more shadow there. Let's carry that right on through into that rear quarter area. Just kind of drop that back in, just across that highlight. Bring that off the fender, bring that in. Into the door cut. Let's get a little bit more fun with this guy. Put some calipers in this beauty. And again. And maybe just a little bit more tone in this. Let's put a little bit of dark accent. Just get this guy to read just a bit more. There we are, a little darker area in this guy. There you are. A little bit of glass. Gonna blend that in. Just take some of the curse off of that neutral black. Just a little more power to it here. Just a little bit more of the front end graphics in place. Put that in there. And maybe just a touch of where the shadows are going to be on the actual tires. Just enough to kind of keep the spookiness in it, but just give you enough impact to let that sketch kind of read off the page here. There's a pretty good first study here of what these guys might look like. Again, it's just going to bring in the wheels just a bit more. A little frame behind it. We'll come back a little bit later with this guy. Just going to get just to isolate that off. Lost a little bit of that door opening there. There it is. Maybe just a bit more hot spot right up and through here. That, and then over the top of the fender, chase it back just a bit, lose it. Pick it up on that quarter area here. Walk it in, and then lose it again. And down and through here, just maybe a touch of highlight right in through here. And we'll just walk it up. Let's do this. Get a nice Weber pad and just kind of blend that out of there. I mean, look how smooth that is. But yet, hopefully it gets a job done. Just brings it off the page just a bit. And it keeps it nice and clean, very simple. Just a nice elevation study here. Let's go back and try to add a bit of shadow underneath this piece to kind of just let it scream just a bit more. There it is. Got that. All of a sudden, there's a pretty good concept in terms of what the next generation, we're not saying they're going to look like this, but we're just taking advantage of the fact that we did a little study last week of getting that form down, and possibly now what this thing might look like in terms of going to another little generation change. Just put a little bit of tighter back in through here, just shadow that out. There you go. Just gonna knock that back just a bit more, just a touch. There we are. Just kind of give it a little bit of a presence in that. And there's a form study right there that hopefully will get the job done for us here. Let's put a little bit more highlight just along this edge right here. Just enough to have the hot spot. And again, a little bit, and down below here. That kind of trails it out there just nicely. There's a first pass. And a very quick, just Prismacolor pencil, little pastel added, and getting a line to line, a lot of just thrust down and keeping it very glass-like, very transparent. I think is really important to kind of take a look at those things when you go through these studies. So there's the first phase. Let me just sharpen the stick again, and we'll just do another little elevation study here. We'll just sign this guy. So there's one. We'll come back to that in just a few moments. Let's go back and do this. Let's go back to another kind of a good approach at elevation. Because I think one of the nice things about doing elevation studies is it gives you an idea. Is that the soldier or the stance, get the wheelbase down, the overall height, get the character down, get some of the tear lines or graphic lines on it, and begin to just push the envelope a little bit in terms of getting a good format down in an elevation. And then begin to convert it into perspective study once you see certain things that you like. So that's the intent of going to some really good, quick and rapid, very simple sketches here. Let's go back in here, get this ground line down again. We'll just draw through it a little bit, get that set where the base is. Get the wheels in place, bring them right up there, take the count back, 1, 2, 3, 4, back to a 5 count, open up the wheelbase just a bit, just kind of hit the wheels down. There it is. Now let's go back in and get the strike line, front quarter, drop it over the top, bring it in, really lower this, so let's bring the cabin full forward and really drop this thing off. There it is. Now let's get this line to come right through here. Let's zing this line right through into the canopy. Let's come off that canopy with this. Take that hip right back and really drop it out of there. There it is. Now let's get this back and take that through like a little diamond pattern in there. Let's drop that out. Take that through, just a bit of a break, and then take that right on through to this. Kind of break that up just a touch. Into this, and then back underneath. A little bit of the cow catcher. Let's get the lamping graphics in place here. Let's put this into place. Get that to run through, get that to come through. Let's get a little more blister into this, just a little bit more of a change of pace. There it is. There it is there. Up on top. Let's take this back, kick it, draw that through. Again, let's go a bit of that to that. So there's an elevation sketch, just really loosely kind of laying in some of the ground rules here to get it started. And we'll see what happens with this thing as we open it up. Let's get the backside wheels in place. Put a bit of relief in there. And again in through here. Take it off the page. Begin to stretch it just a bit. Get that hip to exaggerate itself. Bring that up just a touch. Bring that up, then begin to drop it back in. Let's bring the weights up just a bit. Here's the elevation start, and just pushing the whole canopy forward and getting it kind of lean it over to the downhill side of it here. Just kind of bringing this into play. Get that all set. Some of the wheels in place here, some of the spokes. So I get this back in the image here. There we are. Bringing up some of the highlight and where the rim's going to be. A little bit of graphics in this guy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little reverses in there. Get this now. Just going to tone this back just a bit. Where the underbody just where it comes up down to rocker sill. Just going to drop that back just a bit. Put that upper in place. Put that rear wheel in place. Let me sharpen it again. Notice how we're just kind of slowly building that shape out of there. And it's really, what I love about Canson or tone paper is how it's just very dramatic and very little effort. It just kind of bounces off the page. There's a lot of character in this stuff. And boy, it's just a great medium to work with. You don't see an awful lot of it. I don't know why, because it's such a tremendous system to work with. Over the years, it's been really profound in terms of, it all started with the Sid Mead generation of how that all came together. The guy was an absolute genius with it. Very simple, but yet so profound. Just gonna get this all in place here. Let's get the second smoke series in place. Now let's put just a little bit of highlight back in the shapes here where we are. And just slowly but surely add the same graphics as we have here. 2, 3 of them. And 4 of them, just to kind of set the stage there. What do you think there, gang? Let's go the other way here. Let's kind of reverse these out just a bit now. Save a little bit of time. Drop out some of the negatives here. A little bit of pastel added. It's nice and easy. Just a nice theme sketch in here. Nothing really tuning in. Just getting it all to kind of rotate out. There we are. Come back and pick a little bit of that highlight in here as we lose. Right back in and pick up some of the negative space that we've got in there. And fill in a little bit of the void. A little bit of the caliper work we looked at in some of the earlier sketch there. The first sketch we did, get that in place. Just a touch, a little bit of red in there. Go back and pick up some of the negative in that. And just by little touches here and there, let's get back the wheel back in space here. There you go, just slowly but surely, just bringing it off the page, a little bit of glass line in here. Let's get this guy to kind of crank a little bit for us. There it is. Get that negative nacelle piece, the intake. Get that started out here, and just kind of drop that in. Put a bit of tone down below here, kind of take us through. Just dust this back just a bit. Now, all of a sudden, look at that thing just starts to come off the page. A little more balance to it, so very interesting stuff. Let's go back in, get those backside wheels to kind of drop out a bit. Same with that. Let's go back and reinforce this shadow line, or this ground line, pardon me. Same thing back here. Knock out some of the wheel graphics. Just laying a little bit of pastel to kind of drop out the shapes a bit. A little bit of room up on top here. Get that caliper in place. We'll lay that in there very quickly. And add a little bit more of that, get that wheel graphic back just a bit. A little bit of tail lamp graphic comes back in through here. A little bit of a protrusion. A bit of a different look at it. A little bit of marker assembly in here. There we are. Again, just little touches to kind of take it away from not being so stark. Hey, Captain Nemo, how are you? Just sipping around a bit, stopping by. Hey, good to have you on board. Are you using Prismacolor pencils? Absolutely cool. I have love light pencils and dark blue. Yeah, it's great. Hey, by the way, too, and I've not had a chance to address your concern about PayPal. I am getting that all set up for that ebook, so thank you for the notice. I'm very sorry I haven't had a chance to respond right away, but it's all being taken care of, and it's just great to have you on board. You as well, Demetrius. Thank you very much. Yes, I'm using Prismacolor pencils on tone paper. Let me go back and show you the first one I did here. We're just going through a series of elevation studies on what these Corvettes might begin to look like. So there's the first one we did. Let's do this. Just a nice little facelift on some just advanced Corvette work. Prismacolor pencil, a little bit of pastel added, and getting a lot of really good interest in terms of color and surfaces and like. So I'm going very rapidly here, just kind of get the theme down. And as we go here, just neat, just really interesting how that all comes together. Second sketch. Let me just clarify a couple of things here. Just working on some of the graphics here. Let me just back up on pace here. There it is there. So the nomenclature with the rim. Let's go back and pick up some of the heat here. A bit of highlight on this guy. Over the top of the wheel, so a bit in the glass here. Just enough to kind of break it off. And just get that shoulder in place. That shoulder is really strong up in there, so it's going to have that kind of a character. We'll take a little bit of that and just erase it out, just a touch, just to kind of get that to clean back. Gives you a little bit of idea where that hip is doing up in the rear quarter area there. So, hey, what do you think there, guys? Just making sense for you? It's a lot of fun and just very graphic in terms of being very simple, very quick, but at the same time, extremely expressive. And I think that's what I'm going to get across here in this particular stream today. Just a real good, quick series of empathy sketches and what these advanced vehicles might look like in time to come. Just draw through this guy a little more weight up into here. I'm going to highlight back in there. Just going to take that shape right through here. Just going to drop that in just a bit more. Drop that in just a bit more. And get that little bit of that offset right in there. And that hopefully will do it. A little rear view mirror stop in here. So there it is, gang. There's a second sketch, this little thumbnail study here. And again, a lot of fun, very graphic, very quick. A lot of it is being done by the drawing. The drawing to me has always been very critical. You can do a lot of neat stuff with media, do a lot of neat stuff with adding a lot of materials onto it. But to me, the real secret to success is a really good, strong drawing that has a lot of impact to it and a lot of punch. So, and then you got a question here, Starship Nemo, have you considered drawing a nighttime race Monty with the light trails? Yeah, I have done that. I've done that in the past, Nemo, and that's a good thing to maybe put on the list for future streaming work here. So thank you very much for the input. Let me just sign this guy and we'll move along. So there's two. And then there's the first one we did. Let's kind of take a look at a little comparison here. There's 1 and 2. See if we can get them to line up just a bit here. What do you think, gang? Look how just very interesting how it all, just variation in shape. This one's cabin, the mid cabin, a little bit more midship. This one's a little bit full forward. Still have that rear character attached to it. Picking up the large C8 intake piece. That's the signature piece of the current C8 on the road. And just doing some fun stuff with the graphics involved in putting together the pieces. So again, just neat stuff in terms of putting together thumbnail sketches for you to kind of look at very rapidly. Doesn't take an awful lot of time. Let's go a little bit of background here. Let's a bit of frame in this guy. Just to kind of set it off just a bit. Turn this upside down. We've got a nice clean line across the top. Just to give it a reference. There we are. I'll come back a little bit later with some pastel in here to kind of take the curse off of the all black. Anyway, there it is. This little offset behind it to kind of frame it in just a touch here. So that's the second one. Let's go back here and look at these guys. And let's try something a little different here. Now that you've got a motif started, this is probably one of the most difficult views to work with because it's such an absolute monster to get in terms of correct in terms of scale and width, for example, heights. Let's start out with a nice, simple, real tight front 3/4. Let's go back into this and Let's stop right there. Look at the width on that guy. It just really opens that whole thing and widens it right out. There it is, just really nice and tight up front for us here. It's going to take this on through. Get that lamp graphic to kind of work for us here. Just going to pull that into place. Sharpen the stick. Now let me just stop right there. Look how quickly that came together, but what really makes a difference is how the width, for example, really opens up. And it's a very careful view to work with because it's a really sensitive one as well. You come back in and you really have to be careful what happens with the width. I'm just going to get this guy lined up here. Get that in place. Get that far side rim here to kind of open up that little bit of that blister. Let the viewer see that those are marker lamps. A little bit of that to it, just a little bit of color added, a little bit of color added here. Pardon me as I rotate the paper just a bit. There we go. Again, it goes the marker lamps in place. All of a sudden, starting to take on some personality here. So back in and do this. More emphasis on some of the line weights. The ground just a bit here, pardon the silence, just kind of focus on getting this guy to read for us here. And there you go, look at that sketch. There it is, guys. Nice tight front 3/4 on that beauty. So what do you think, gang? It's making sense for us? Look at the width and the height of this thing. And I think that's one of the things about proportions that I think are really important, especially in transportation design. If you got a machine such as a Corvette or a C8 system, well, you don't want to miss the fact that it's wide and it's low and it has a lot of just real earthly grip to it, and it should look like it's really substantial in terms of putting together the format and the sketch character that all comes together with. So what do you think there, gang? Let's put a little bit of color in this thing now, a little bit of highlight along this guy, so just to kind of twinge it up just a bit. Dropped it out, just to get some of the graphic surfaces in place here. Kind of knock it out just a bit. Real loose and empathic. Nothing really being telegraphed so specifically. Just want to make sure we get the idea down here. Just got to get that cleaned up just a bit. A little bit of that intake, a little bit of that in intake. Let me grab this little brush here for a second. We'll get rid of this. We'll put that right there. We need a little bit more of it. Let's get back in and get this down just a touch more. Get a little bit of shadow underneath this guy. Get that to read just a touch. And that. Side glass, a little bit of that in there. And it drops it out just a bit. And just a touch of 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3. Just enough to indicate there's a bit of a dish going on back there. Let's go with this. Let's get this out of the way here. Come back and redraw. We've lost just a bit. And just a little bit of that and a little bit of tie reference down through here. Let it go that spooky. What do you think, guys? There's just enough information to give you some good. Whoops, pardon me as I move this thing over just a touch here. Hey, hi, David. How are you, man? Oh, David, yeah, good. You look cool. Complimenting the 06. Yeah, just an hour ago. That's right, the 06. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Thanks, David, for joining us here. What do you think so far, gang? Coming along all right? Nice to have you on board, David. Hope you're doing well. I'll just bring up the speed here. We just just spent some time today doing the following. First sketch we did, David, was just a little variation on theme and elevation, looking at just a little bit of tone paperwork and maybe some typical changes that C8 might go through in the next few decades and so forth. Very subtle, but nonetheless still changes being made there. What I'm concentrating on here, guys, is the idea of getting a good rapid sketch down, keeping it very fluid, keeping it very dynamic, and working on canson paper. It doesn't take an awful lot of effort. It just really is a neat system to work with. The high contrast is already there. It's already baked into the system. There's no need to really go back in and do a lot of fussing with it. It just has a whole lot of neat stuff going on. So that was the first one we did, David. So that was sketch one. Then another variation, staying in elevation, pulled the whole cap forward just a little bit, but yet kept some of the same drama. Opened up the rear tail section just a bit more, and then really opened up this vacuole back here. To kind of a little bit of breathing work. So that was the second sketch we did, Dave. Then the third one we did was just watching you come on board was this guy right here. Just a little bit of a front three-quarter study where you really emphasize real powerful, for example, opening of the width, getting the width right, the height right, and then the overall stance correct. So just going to do a little dusting in here. Just going to kind of fade out some of this stuff here. There we go. Let it fade out just a bit more. Just keeping it nice and subtle, nice and easy. That's it. I mean, just a really good, powerful sketch. I mean, not that this is, but just the idea of getting high contrast in the operation of working with especially canson and Prismacolor pencil. Just neat stuff here. So let me just do a couple little tune-ups here. And we'll get this guy and we'll start another one. Well, thank you so much for joining forces, gang. It's good to have you on board today. Always fun to have you on, especially Captain Nemo. Hope all's well with you and your gang over there in Europe. Nice to have you just take the time to come with us. A little bit of highlight here, a little bit of highlight there, and let's just kind of kick that out. That should do her. Let's get a little bit stiffer in this guy, just a bit more, and there it is. A little more, let's get that little lifter in the hood surface, just a bit more highlight right in through here. Reflected light in the glass. Not much, just enough to give us a bit of a peek sneak at it. There it is. There it is. Get that little drive line to come through and over. And there you are. There's a nice little three-quarter study there, gang. Let me just sign this guy. We'll move on here. Put a little bit of a frame in this thing so it doesn't look so stark. Turn this upside down. Nice little reference line to work with there. Again, maybe just a touch more hotspot right back in through there to kind of take the bite off the line. There it is, front three-quarter, and interesting, great surface to work with. I mean, I just love canson paper. To me is absolutely powerful stuff. I mean, it's so quick and it's so expressive. And it's easy to very easy to work with too. It doesn't take an awful lot of media being added onto it. I think the one thing about it that I really enjoy the most is it really allows you to think about the drawing. The drawing is the essential piece. If you've got that correct, and then putting up the thick and thin lines and getting a lot of aspect into it, and putting a little bit of character behind it, that just takes care of itself. There's no need to overbuild it. It's already done. And in fact, the nice thing about, from a teaching perspective, when I use can paper, I always think of the paper as being middle ground, and the pencil and you go from highlight to shadow, and the pencil usually is highlight, and the marker sometimes can be both highlight and shadow. But you've got a visible line there that keeps it nice and simple. It's a triad setup, which really works marvelously. So let's go. It's that one. Let's go one more. Let's go rear 3/4. Let's go put this back in place here. Let's get this guy down here. Let's get this guy started. Get the wheels planted. Put the body line in place. Now let's pick up that center line. Going to build off of that right through the shape. Let's get that rear 3/4 area. Let's get that hip in place. Take it back into the upper. And then just roll that right back into the A-pillar. Up in the front quarter, fender, into wheel. That little pod piece. The shadow designation. Let's get that upper in place. Let's take that into account. Rear view mirror. Rear view mirror. Let me sharpen it up just a bit. You know how quickly that's coming together. Just laying in the perspective and getting it all set. Let's get that hip to run through. Drive through it. Pick up where that's going to go. Now let's get the upper in place. Let's kind of just tailor this back. Got that to that. A little bit of boat tail. Let's take that into that area there. Let's kind of work it back into the upper and then just break this thing. And then turn upside down. Let's take this right across the actual shape in the plan view. Turn it again here. Oop, pardon me, as I move around here. Locking it in. We'll come back and do some detail work later. Sharpen it up a little bit. There you go. This is a little 3/4 shot of this guy. And again, just a very simple series of line sketches here. Again, getting the modeling down and making sure that the process and the perspective is right. Notice, look at the amount of drive there is here from that line. As you move forward, how it just opens up and kind of drops back to the horizon line. That's the important thing about the drawing phase of this stuff that I think is absolutely intriguing to me. Let's do a little bit of this. Let's go back in and get these guys lined up here. Let's do this. A little bit of this. A little bit of that and that, and then we'll catch some of the lamping graphics here. Add a little bit of texture first to it. Back in, pick up some line weight here. A bit of ground shadow. And again, the hip line coming in. Let's turn the corner. Bring this around just a bit. Now let's put a bit of heat to this thing. A bit of shadow. So there's a little bit of recess in there. There you go. That just kind of brings that out just a bit more. Let's come back into this. Get that little nacelle to work. Come back in and pick up what we've left here. Let's get a bit of glass in this area. Just start to pick up just a bit more. Let's get this glass to kind of drop back a little bit on that side. You know how simple that is, but yet hopefully it's starting to take on some personality here. Let's just, we're going to see just a touch of that on this side. Let's just kind of lay that in. So there you are. I mean, look how very graphic that is, but at the same time, it has a particular stance to it. And so far, so good, I think. Let me just get a little bit of a stick in here. And we'll pick up what we've lost here as far as line work is concerned. A little more graphics in this guy. And let's see what that looks like. What do you think there, guys? There's a little 3/4 study, just basically all line. Hey, hi Chip, how are you? Good to have you on board there, man. Just doing a whole series of some advanced Corvette work here, and just doing a little bit of everything in terms of putting together some sequences here. Just put a little bit of tone in this guy. Let's lose it just a bit. Gotta get that back. So a little bit more heat on this quarter up on the top. Lay that in. Go back in and pick that up just a bit. And the highlight. Let it blend. Same thing here. Just blend it in. I mean, look how soft that gets, and all of a sudden you're just emphasizing some of the shapes and surfaces you're dealing with there. So again, what I mentioned earlier here for your benefit, Chip, was just the idea of getting some of the concept work down and tone paper. I mean, to me, the process is what's rich about it. It's a sketch series. The drawing series has got to be really elementary, powerful. Once that's all set and put in place, everything else is just really, quite frankly, is academic. Looking at just some, the stream today is obviously looking at some advanced Corvette concept sketches, just some what ifs, looking at the basic shapes that are already out there in the road today, which is very imposing, great looking machine, but just looking at maybe some variations on theme that might be coming down the road here in time to come. So I'm just going to go back in here and pick up a little bit more of the definition in the sketch. We'll begin to pick it up into the belt line. Oh, let's put a bit of shadow in this little intake area here. There you go. That's going to help. That tells me where that's going to be dropping back just a bit. Nice. And we'll just take that through and skid it. And again, just little touches here and there makes a huge, let me get that up in place here. Sorry about that. I'm going to stop there for a moment, just get your feedback on this whole series. What do you think, gang? Is this making sense for you? I mean, the sketches ought to be, as far as I'm concerned, automotive stuff is not easy to do, but it should be powerful. It should be exciting. Can look better in the shade. Cars look better in the shade. Yeah, they do. Pretty interesting comment there, Chip. But about the character of the sketch. I mean, is it reading? You're seeing how very simple it is, and yet there's not a lot there, but it all holds together nicely. You can have any color you want as long as it's black. Yeah, it's black, but again, it could be a whole variety of things like hyper silvers and all the grays and the like. But the idea is to get the Canson paper to do the work for you. That this whole surface is other colors are nice, but cars are black. Yeah, okay, so I'll buy that. What's nice about the Canson system is that this paper surface, whether it's black, gray, red, etc., that becomes middle ground. All you're doing is working north and south on this whole process. So let's just kind of go back here, and I think we're just about set on this guy. A little bit more highlight up on top here. Let's do this just for what it's worth. Let's kind of scrub in just a bit of a hot spot. Just take that on through. A little definition in that, and just rub that on in. Get a little more highlight across that, and there it is. And again, through here. Pretty strong little system back in through here. Just gonna let it show. There you are. Just enough variation on that theme to kind of let it work here. So there's a nice family of forms right there, guys. Yeah, the paper mediums sort of have poses its long tone. You got to work around it. That's exactly right, Chip. And if you violate it, it gets really difficult in a hurry. So you can't. That's one of the nice things about getting into tone paper exercises. You just can't violate the fact that you've got to honor the paper, draw with a lot of random, real aggressiveness, sketch well, and let the drawing do the work for you. Then add just enough media on top of that to get it to work. So let me go back in here, just finish up some of the cut line geometry here. We'll get this all set up. And there we are. A little recess in the glass here. Take that port into place and draw it on the other side. There it is. I mean, just a very simple, straightforward series of sketches here. A lot of fun. I just said after last Thursday's stream, by the way, I really apologize for that. When YouTube loaded it up, the Corvette illustration I did last Thursday, I typed in, for example, C8 Corvette illustration. And they picked up the one I did prior to that, and they titled the whole series Entry-Level Sketches, which is not. So I apologize for that. So if you're looking for that Corvette piece, it's entitled improperly. So my apologies that YouTube just picked it up incorrectly, but we've got it there, and it's up and running. So hopefully there'll be some, but this is a nice turnaround from that. That one we did last Thursday was much more of a formal rendering. These are more conceptual sketches in terms of working with tone paper, Prismacolor pencil, a little bit of pastel, and drawing back in again. Some really interesting information here down in a hurry. So just going to put a little bit of drop in this guy. Take some of the color stuff of the back there. Let's just put a little bit of line work in this guy. And we'll just kind of call it a day. Let's do this, sign it. Working with this, a nice simple cloud blue, a little bit of orange, a little bit of red. Just fun stuff to deal with there, gang. So we're going to go through walk through the anthology here. Let's go from start to finish, and we'll wrap it up here. Again, purpose of the stream today, theme sketches, how to lay down very simple graphic studies using Canson paper, Prismacolor pencil, a little bit of pastel, and really focusing on the good proportions in the drawing, known as height to length, and you'll see in a moment the width as well. So let me go through the anthology here. This is the first one we did, just a nice little thumbnail sketch, just kind of bringing the same kind of vacuole system on the rear quarter area, magnifies it more, a little bolder with it. Keeping the cabin midship, so to speak, and pretty safe. There was the first one we did. Second sketch, taking a little bit of a bolder approach to it, a little higher hip in the rear area, pulling the cab forward, and getting a little more substantial work with this intake piece, and just looking at proportion changes primarily. Third sketch is going into a front three quarters, so where it really gets evil. I mean, that thing starts to just drop in nicely, because all of a sudden, this sketch is, to me, critical, because it really plays into the fact that you've got to have real strong, very bold width, the height, and all the proportions working nicely to make this thing read. So it's a very interesting. That front view is really, yeah, I agree, Chip. Thank you. The front view really tells a story because, again, if you miss the widths and you don't get the proportion correct, it's too narrow, for example, and you go real low, it looks very strange. So I spent a lot of time putting the sketch together, setting the wheels down first, and really opening up that stance, and then finding where my center line was, and really making sure the widths were right, and then building some of the surfaces to take place. So yeah, a lot of fun. Thank you, Chip. Nice to hear you make comment on that. And those of you, Demetrius, are you still there? Captain Nemo, making sense. I hope this guy kind of sings for you a little bit, because you can do an elevation that tells you one story. If you get into a 3/4 front such as this, it really starts to really crank on this beauty, man. It just tells a story. So there you are. There's a front 3/4. And then the last one we did was a nice little rear 3/4. Just changing the design character again. And again, notice from start to finish, these sketches are not intended to be the same form. They're looking at exploratory shapes and developing certain form systems and really doing some neat stuff and taking chances and just letting the drawing work. And I think the thing I want to close with is this. Every perspective sketch is extremely thanks very much, Nino. That's nice to hear. Thank you so much. Good stuff. I mean, just changing the drama. The view angle is really critical too. You can make or break a sketch, especially if it's sporty like the Vet series is. If it's kind of flat and uninteresting, you kind of dies with it. If you open it up and just canter a little bit and really spell out the rear wheels being larger and just diminish it as it goes, the perspective point of view is really important and critical. That's great stuff. So thank you, Nemo. And again, the intent today was to just explore some good old-fashioned drawing skills, letting it work a little bit, and then see what begins to take place. And it might make kind of fun on Thursday to take one of these guys and do another family of shapes and forms, taking a little further out, and really taking some really interesting shape studies here. So once again, thank you so much for your time, gang. Always fun to have you on board. And if you have a moment, please take a look at my website at drcontrast.com. There's some very interesting drawing systems there to work with, 9 lessons. Love to have you take a look at that. Hey, thanks, Chip, for joining. Really appreciate it. Hope you have a great day. We'll hope to see you on Thursday. Again, the website, drcontrast.com. Take a peek at that, please. If you have any interesting things you want me to work on or some subject matter to deal with, drop me a note at jim@drcontrast.com. That's where my email address is, and I'd love to have some feedback from you all. And again, last but not least, I think it's really important that we do this every time I come together with you on streaming here. It's a very, very critical thing to deal with, and I think it's so important to work with. And that is, I always believe this with all my heart. Never forget to remember to dare to be great, because you are. Thanks, gang. Have a great day. We'll see you on Thursday. Take care and all the very best. Thanks for joining in.